welcome back, folks, to our Catching Up series with Georgia tennis legends and Hall of Famers, broadcasting live from the Sessions Family Georgia Tennis Hall of Fame and Museum here in Marietta. And we're very pleased today to be joined by a real Georgia tennis legend in every sense of the word, the class of 2007 in the Georgia Tennis Hall of Fame. Randy Stevens, kind of Mr. Macon is what a lot of people know him as. Randy, how are you today?
I'm doing well, thanks. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much for spending a little time with us. We don't have nearly enough time to talk about everything that you've done in tennis because it's just an amazing career that's continuing. You're still really active, but maybe we can start with kind of an unusual path you took to tennis. I would probably say, compared to a lot of other folks that were in tennis. You really didn't play any junior tennis at all, right? I mean, you kind of wanted to be a missionary when you grew up, and then of course the Battle of the Sexes match changed that and the influence it had on you. Can you talk about maybe what you did before you played, and then some of the what got you into tennis in college, I believe?
Right. Yeah, I growing up, I played all, baseball, football, basketball, golf, everything. And played a lot of basketball and golf primarily toward the end of my high school years. And initially went to Campbell's University in Campbellsville, Kentucky to play basketball and golf up there. And when I got there, I realized I really wasn't good enough to play either one at that level. And it just so happened that the basketball team that I was on, we watched the Billie Jean King Bobby Riggs match in the dorm room one night all together, and then a couple of us decided we wanted to start playing tennis. So we would go out on the tennis courts late at night after practice and things and play tennis. And I stayed a year up there and then came back and was really enjoying tennis and playing a lot of it at that point in time, and tried out for the Georgia State University team my sophomore year, and I didn't make the team. But I kept practicing, and in my junior year, I played tennis at Georgia State my junior and senior years.
But remember, Michael Jordan didn't make his basketball team, right, the first time he tried. So similar here, right? Good perseverance.
Well, I think that the dissimilarity is probably that he could jump, and I couldn't.
Right. Exactly. Well, you went on to have a pretty successful college career, particularly for someone who really had no tennis experience or acumen going into it. And then you decided to stay in tennis and decided, if memory serves me correct, you kind of went down the director of tennis teaching pro route. We talked to Peter Howe on this series maybe a month back, and he talked about the influence that the Battle of the Sexes had on tennis in Atlanta and Georgia. And really, Peter kind of got that director of tennis position. He molded it in terms of a legitimate position within a club or a park. You were director of tennis at Country Club of Roswell first. Can you talk about maybe how you ended up there, that experience?
So at the time that I took the position at Country Club of Roswell, it was called Tam O'Shanter at that time, and Tam O'Shanter was in bankruptcy. So there weren't a lot of people that wanted that job, but I took a chance on it and worked there for about 8 months, and it was bought by the Arvida Corporation out of Florida, which really turned it around and made it what it is at Country Club of Roswell. So it went from being not such a good job to one of the better jobs in Atlanta at the time. And I didn't have a lot of experience teaching, and Peter Howe became a mentor to me in some ways. He's about 5 years older than I am, and he was the director of tennis at the Atlanta Athletic Club, which was 10 minutes from Country Club of Roswell. So I spent a lot of time picking his brain and him helping me learn about clay courts, teaching methods. I joined the USPTA and started attending conventions and workshops anytime I could to learn from other teaching professionals. But that's kind of how I started. I was just in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, you're one of many folks that Peter Howe had an amazing influence over. What a visionary! Of course, he started the GPTA, which you eventually became president, I believe of, and just a great visionary man, and someone that we've learned a lot from and continue to this day. So then I believe you moved on to maybe what people kind of associate with you most, and that's your work in Macon. In fact, I believe you still live there as director of tennis of City of Macon. Why did you go down there? Was there a family connection? Was it an offer you couldn't refuse? Why'd you end up working for the city?
When I was leaving Country Club of Roswell, I'd been there 8 years, and I was interviewing in a couple of other places. And one of the things that attracted me to a public tennis facility like John Drew Smith Tennis Center and Tatnall Tennis Center at the times was the opportunity to work with disadvantaged people. And I started programs for the Special Olympics and started, wheelchair tennis programs, things like that I wasn't really allowed to do at a country club. So that was the attractive part of it. But I really didn't know anyone in Macon. Les Peak was a friend. He was a good player in the 35s, I think, at that time. So I'd heard of him and got to know him a little bit, but I really didn't know anyone in Macon. But it was a real blessing. I was the tennis director for 13 years at John Drew Smith and Tatnall, and it was a wonderful experience for me.
Yeah, and they're still going strong today. I mean, John Drew Smith is one of the most famous tennis facilities throughout the state. Lots of great events have been played there, and hopefully in the future will continue to be. I believe, memory serves me correct, Randy, you ran a professional circuit event there once, right? Where you had to jump in and learn that side of in terms of officiating and those kind of things. Is that something that you enjoyed, or is it something you couldn't wait till the tournament was over?
It was a real learning experience for me. It was an event that was held at a club like in East Atlanta, and I think the tennis director had left, and it was going to take place in 3 months. I think there were 4 tournaments in the South, like in Mobile and maybe Charleston, and Macon was one of these 3 stops. So we took it over. I mean, the USTA was excited to have it at a facility that had 24 courts, because back then, if I remember correctly, and it was a draw of 128, but there would probably be another 100 people in a qualifying tournament. So there were a lot of really good, players that were. It was the lowest level of the satellite tournaments that were there. But I worked with the tour directors, and it was a neat experience for me to kind of see that level of tennis and how good those players are that are trying to make it, that are ranked, 500 to 1,000 in the United States or the world. And see how good they really are.
Yeah, another Georgia Hall of Famer, Armistead Neely, helped really start the watch circuit for those types of players that the USTA eventually took over as what we know as the pro circuit today. And just again, another visionary here in the Georgia Tennis Hall of Fame, what he did. But was Jim Hanley someone that you came across in your travels with those tournaments?
Yeah, Jim Hanley was the tour director here. I think they sent two tour directors, and they, I was the referee and they were the tour directors of the tournament. And, I'd refereed a lot of junior tournaments, that sort of thing, to qualify in the Southern 14s. I mean, some pretty big tournaments. But I came to realize, when I went down one time and some guy had said a cuss word that I gave him a code violation for, and you had to go back up and turn that into the tour directors. And I remember going back up and telling Jim Hanley what this guy did. And he said, Randy, he said, maybe you could be a little softer in your approach or that sort of thing. He said, when you give that player a code violation, it's going to cost him more than he's going to make in prize money in this tournament. Right. And these players really need the money. He said, maybe you could take a softer approach. And I said, Jim, if one of y'all would be the referee and just let me be here to support y'all, that'd be great. And the tour directors were great. They stepped in, did anything that, we could do. But I really enjoyed that part of it for, probably, I guess we did it probably 4 years.
Yeah, the supervisors out there, they're kind of the unsung, folks. They're out there every week educating, enforcing when necessary. Jim, I think, liked to maybe write up fine checks in pesos, maybe not American dollars. He was just a very unique individual in a good way. One of the one of the all-time greats there. So, Randy, you've been president of more organizations than maybe anybody else I've ever heard of. And what's not on the screen is, my guess is you were president of what was the Macon Tennis Association. They just changed their name to Macon Area Tennis Association, which you could argue was probably your most important time as presidency. But you've been multiple time president of our organization with USTA Georgia, Southern, and the PTA Southern and GPTA. Not going to ask you if you have a favorite organization you were president of, because I know you'd say USTA Georgia. And you'll get your check, by the way, if you do say that. But is there maybe a time when you were a president of an organization that you really felt, I really contributed and made a difference here, and maybe change a philosophy in the organization, or was there more than one?
I think I learned this from another mentor of mine, the USTA, Lucy Garvin, who told me one time, as you move up within the structure of the USTA and you serve at different levels and you continue to move to higher levels, never forget to stay involved at the local level, Randy. And that meant a lot to me. And being president of probably the Macon Tennis Association, it's like, people serve at all levels of this, great association of the USTA, but tennis is played in local communities on local courts. So the more you can do in your local community to inspire others and get more people on the courts, that's what it's all about to me. Although I've loved all these positions, making a difference in your local community is what I think makes us valuable volunteers.
Yeah, it's so important. And the CTA presidents, and we've got some great ones now within our state that are doing some great things. And so that's very, very much important. And we really, and what's great for me is you're still involved with our organization, being USTA Georgia. And of course, the Georgia Tennis Foundation you're involved with as well. So you're involved in so many different capacities, and we really appreciate all that you continue to do. And remember, committee applications come out soon for us. I'll make sure you get that email. But so Randy, where I think you and I crossed paths for the first time, if memory serves me correct, I was involved a decent amount on the wheelchair tennis side in Southern Cal with my dear friend and colleague Annette Buck. And I walked into a USTA wheelchair committee meeting many years ago, and there's this guy from Macon, Georgia, in the front as the chair of the committee. And then Annette struck up a conversation with you after, and I think that was the first time I ever got a chance to talk to you a little bit. But as chair of USTA Wheelchair and of course Tennis Innovations, although I'm sure you're not the same as Jim Refkin, but the all-time legend in tennis innovation. But you mentioned you did start some wheelchair programs in Macon. Is that what kind of sparked your interest in maybe helping the wheelchair committee at the national level?
Yeah, definitely. The opportunity to be involved with people like wheelchair players that are, at the local level, it's just the excitement of making contact with the tennis ball and doing something physical and pushing and just getting them out on a tennis court and fresh air and doing things with other people that are also in chairs with them. That was so neat to me. But the more I got involved in it and saw how it was played at an international level, and I had the opportunity while I was chair of wheelchair tennis of the United States to travel around the world with the World Team Cup and watch our best players in the United States play against the best players from around the world. And it was really incredible to watch quadriplegics play, to watch the very best men and women in the world. It's like, being a decent tennis player, probably a 4.5 or 5.0 at that time, when I was much younger, it's like, there's no way I could beat those best players in the world, and them in a wheelchair and me running. It's like their talent is so amazing. And to see a guy like Nick Taylor that that is quadriplegic and, had a birth defect where he doesn't have any arms below his elbow. So he has like 3 fingers that stick out of his elbow, and to watch him play in an electric chair and toss the ball up to hit a serve with his feet. It's just inspirational. I remember just crying the first time I watched him play. It's like, man, what a miracle to see this guy out there playing probably 3-5 level tennis in an electric wheelchair with no hands, just 2 fingers holding a racket. That meant so much more to me that I got out of wheelchair tennis than I ever was able to put into it. But it had a major influence on my life in tennis, and I'm so grateful for the USTA and ITF for letting me, serve at that level.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer. Everybody has a story, and boy, there's no better stories than some of the wheelchair players, not just the U.S. players, but around the world. I mean, I remember talking to the Dutch Federation coach at the U.S. Open one year, and just chatting about tennis and kind of what he saw some of his players had to do. And I was pretty blessed. Annette asked me to help her with the U.S. Open when we had the U.S. Open in San Diego.
Right.
And Randy, you'll get a kick out of this. I'll never forget one year there was this big commotion going on at the stadium, and I was down with the A, B, and C events on the back courts, and somebody's like, "What's going on there?" I'm like, "Well, I think Esther just lost the first set." Esther Verkeer. And of course, she won 0-0 the next 2 sets. But yeah, that's the first time we crossed paths. So thank you for your service in that part of our sport. And you've left a legacy there as well. So your relationship with John Callan, the executive director of USTA Southern, a great friend and mentor, and certainly has really helped myself as well in my time here in Georgia. Can you talk about maybe John's influence on you and your friendship? I mean, don't share anything you don't want to share, of course, but
no,
anything.
That's fine. John and I weren't. I mean, it was somebody I didn't know when I was a young tennis professional. When I talked about the influence Peter Howe had in my life as a young tennis professional, Callan has done that later in the life, from the time I was probably 30, when I got to know John more closely. I mean, John just is. It's hard for me to talk about it because he knows so much about tennis at every level of the game, and has such an influence on tennis, and so many innovative ideas that we use in tennis today came from John Callan. But he's not a person that ever wants any credit for anything. You never know that it was his idea to begin with. But so many things that there's no doubt in my mind that the rankings that use the per round reach was a John Callan idea to keep juniors from kind of ducking other players, at the end of the year, where it couldn't hurt you to play more tennis. But I started playing tennis with him when we became friends, and we played doubles together, probably 35 years now. And he's always been the better player on the court with me, but he's so positive. He could have played with a much better player than I was for many years, but he's allowed me to be on his back and travel all over the South with him. And his friendship's immeasurable in my life.
Yeah, he's been a great friend to me as well. And I spent a long time in Southern California. As we know, we had a legend as RED that I was blessed to work for 15 years, Henry Talbert, one of the greatest men in the history of the organization. And he raved and spoke very highly of John. So when I came here, I was like, this guy must be a pretty good dude, because if Henry Talbert thinks you're great, that says something. So, so you just got a tennis center, I believe, named after you in Macon. What a great honor. That's something maybe that surprised you didn't see coming. Anyone you want to throw under the bus for making that happen? But what a great record. This is the new South Bib 24 court complex, I believe, down south of Macon. It's now the Randy Stevens Tennis Center. Thoughts on that? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, it has, I believe, maybe 22 courts and a little small stadium court and 8 pickleball courts, and then a very nice pro shop facility there. I was involved a little bit in the beginning, the groundbreaking and stuff like that, but it was just an opportunity to do something for tennis in the south part of the county, since we had John Drew Smith Tennis Center in the northern part of the county. And it was built with SPLOST funds, but it's a state-of-the-art tennis facility. But after it was built, and before it was open, the person that really drove this and brought it to fruition was my good friend Jamie Kaplan. Jamie has the tennis center already named after in Macon, or I'm sure this tennis center would have been named after, because she is Miss Tennis in Macon, and not just Miss Tennis, she's tennis in Macon. It's like, for the things that I've been able to do here, I'm very proud of them. But when there's a tennis question to be asked, it's always asked to Jamie Kaplan, and deservedly so. But she's the one that took it to the county commissioners and the mayor, and they agreed to the naming of it in my honor, and it happened very quickly. In a few weeks, it was done, and the county commissioners called me about it and told me asked me if I would accept it. And obviously it's an honor to be recognized in your local community for your accomplishments here. But just want to thank Jamie Kaplan, the mayor, and the county commissioners for putting my name on something that hopefully I was kidding them at a commission meeting. Because when they name something after someone that's still alive, you got to go through a few extra steps, with the background check and things like that.
Right.
And I passed the background check somehow. But at the meeting, I told them I'd try to live the rest of my life in a manner where they wouldn't have to change the name of the tennis center.
Right.
So hopefully I can do that.
Well, no doubt that's going to happen. But so Randy, you're one or two more things here. You're in 4 more Hall of Fames than I am, or ever probably will be. On the PTA, Southern, obviously, the Georgia Tennis Hall of Fame, and the GPTA. Still one of the greatest Hall of Fame acceptance speeches I've ever heard was when you were inducted into Southern, and you talked about what you told your beautiful other half, Leslie. Would you believe in? I'm paraphrasing, and correct me if I was wrong. I believe you said something like, "Would you believe in your wildest dreams that you would ever be, sleeping next to or whatever to a Hall of Famer?" And she said, "What did she say?" She said, "You're not in my wildest dreams." Is that?
But that was it. Quite frankly, Randy, you've never been in my wildest dreams.
Right. Still one of the greatest speeches I've ever heard in my life. But that was fantastic.
Thank you.
Let's talk specifically this Hall of Fame, the Georgia Hall of Fame. I'm here today, and I can see all the names on our Hall of Fame, and I say this on every show. I mean, I put our Hall of Fame up against anyone. Just an incredible group of people. So when you were told you were going to be inducted in this special group, what went through your mind? And Randy, what does the Georgia Hall of Fame mean to you?
If you just walk through the place and see the people that came before us more recently that have gone into the Hall of Fame, I mean, to see the Bitsy Grants and the Dan McGills, the Ruth Lays, those kind of people that had such a tremendous influence on that. I mean, I'm just so grateful that we have a permanent facility like that most state associations aren't able to do because of the gift of the Sessions family to put all that together for us in the grand opening. I know, Evan Hardy and I worked together to raise the funds for it, and Evan was, did a tremendous job of raising enough money there for us to have a permanent structure at the USTA Georgia office. But a big thank you to the Sessions family for making it all a reality.
Yeah, I get quite a few phone calls from my colleagues, not just within Southern, but around the country. And they can you take pictures of this? We want to see what you guys did here. Hopefully people, when we sort of get back to normal here, people will come in and visit. It's a great, and you can watch Randy Stevens' video. It's make sure we do supply popcorn if you'd like to do that. Just let us know in advance. My video there is worth the price of admission to get in. Right, exactly. That and John Callan too, and Bill Ozakis. The 3 of you guys. That's 15 minutes of your life you can't get back. But anyway, Randy, I really appreciate you joining us today. Congratulations on everything you've done and you're still continuing to do. Thank you again. It's been fun catching up with you.
Thanks so much, Darren. I appreciate you putting it together. My best friends in life come from tennis, and you meet the nicest people. So hopefully we'll continue to stay involved together and meet a lot more. Well, folks, that's catching up with 2007 Georgia Tennis Hall of Fame inductee, the legendary Macon tennis Randy Stevens. Thanks so much for joining us today. Look for our next episode shortly. Thanks for watching.